All right, let's talk about that six-letter B word, budget. Yeah, I know, just hearing it can make you cringe, right? If you've ever felt that budgeting is just tedious, overwhelming, or feels like a straitjacket on your life, trust me, you are in good company. But what if we've got this whole thing completely backward? This quote here, it flips the entire script. The idea that a budget isn't a set of handcuffs for your spending, it's actually the key that unlocks financial freedom. It's all about you taking back control and telling your money where it needs to go. And yet, get this, a whopping 6 out of 10 people in America still don't even keep a monthly budget. There's this huge gap between the power a budget offers and our willingness to actually do it. So the big question is, why? Why do so many of us run away from something that's supposed to give us more freedom? Well, a huge part of the problem is that most of the budgeting advice out there, it's kind of built on a foundation of sand. It pretty much sets us up to fail from the get-go. So let's dive into why those past attempts you might have made just didn't work out. I'm sure you've heard of this one, right? The famous 50-30-20 rule. It sounds awesome in a perfect world. Half your income on needs, 30% on fun stuff, 20% into savings. But for so many people, the reality is that 60%, sometimes even more, is just eaten up by the absolute must-haves, leaving almost no room to breathe. I mean, for a lot of us, the math just doesn't add up. When your rent or mortgage, plus getting to work, already blows past half your take-home pay, the rules are broken before you even start. This whole approach can make people feel like failures from day one. Okay, let's switch gears for a second. I want you to think about a number. $400. Doesn't sound like a life-changing amount of money, does it? But for a huge chunk of the population, that number is the financial breaking point. So the Federal Reserve did this survey, and the results were, well, pretty eye-opening. It found that nearly 4 out of 10 American households couldn't cover a surprise $400 expense with the cash they have. Just think about that for a second. A flat tire, a leaky pipe, that one little thing can instantly send you spiraling into credit card debt if you don't have a plan. But here's the thing, it's not always the big catastrophic stuff that gets us. A lot of the time, it's death by 1,000 cuts. You know, after a long, stressful day of making decisions, your willpower is just shot. That's when it's so easy to just say yes to that pizza delivery or that thing you see online. Those little, untracked purchases, those are the real silent killers of our budget. Okay, so if the old way is broken, what do we do? Well, it all starts with a really simple but super powerful shift in how we think about this. We've got to move away from thinking about restriction and start thinking about intention. So let's just throw out the old definition of budget for a minute. A budget is simply an intentional spending plan. That's it. It's just you sitting down and deciding ahead of time where your hard-earned money is going to go, instead of getting to the end of the month and wondering where it all vanished. Look, the goal here isn't about being perfect or getting some kind of award for being a finance nerd. It's about grabbing the steering wheel of your financial life. It's about cutting down on that constant low-grade money stress and making sure your spending actually lines up with what's truly important to you. All right, so how do we actually do this? Let's forget all the complicated apps and the confusing rules for a sec. I'm going to walk you through a super simple 3-step blueprint that anyone can use. It's called the zero-based budget. This is it, the whole strategy in a nutshell. It really just boils down to these 3 things. First, you give every single one of your dollars a job to do before the month even starts. Second, you got to track your spending as it happens to keep yourself honest. And third, you have to be flexible and adjust the plan when life happens. So step 1 is really the heart of this whole zero-based idea. The formula is crazy simple. Income minus expenses equals 0. So if your take-home pay is $4,000 a month, every dollar you plan to save, spend, or give away should add up to exactly $4,000. Every single dollar gets a name and a purpose. Okay, I need to be super clear about this, though. This does not mean you should have $0 left in your bank account at the end of the month. Please don't do that. You definitely want a buffer in there. It just means that on your plan, whether it's on paper or a spreadsheet, every single dollar has been accounted for. All right, on to step 2. And I'm going to be honest, this is the part most people hate. But it's also where the real magic happens. You have to track where your money is actually going. Yeah, it can be a little tedious at first, but it's the only way to get a truly honest picture of your spending habits. This quote it nails it, doesn't it? Most people just aren't willing to do the hard stuff. So if you're willing to do the slightly annoying work of actually tracking your spending, you are putting yourself so far ahead of the game. And that brings us to step 3, which is maybe the most important part of making this whole thing stick. You have to adjust as you go. Because, life happens. Your utility bill is higher one month, or you get a surprise invitation. It's no big deal. If you overspend on groceries, you just move some money from your restaurants category to cover it. This is a flexible guide, not a rigid set of rules designed to punish you. So once you get into the swing of this, once it becomes a habit, something really amazing starts to happen. You stop just trying to survive the month, and you can start looking ahead, way beyond just this month's bills. And that's really the big takeaway here. This monthly plan, it's not the finish line. It's the starting block. It's the solid foundation that you build everything else on top of, from getting out of debt to actually building real long-term wealth. So, what comes next? Once you've got the basics down, you can level up with this simple strategy. First, just track everything for about 3 months. No judgment, just get the data to see where your money is really going. Then you can look for realistic cuts. Start with the wants, not the needs. And finally, you shift your focus to growing your income, because at a certain point, you can't cut anymore. You have to earn more. This is the whole point. This is the why. This is what you unlock when you do the work. The power to just destroy your debt, to build a real emergency fund that protects you, to save for a down payment, to invest for your future, and maybe best of all, to just sleep better at night with so much less financial stress. And none of this is rocket science. It's not magic. It all comes back to that first, simple, intentional plan you make for your money. So let's end on this thought. Stop thinking of your budget as a prison. Think of it as your vehicle. It's the starting line for your entire financial journey. The only real question left is, where do you want it to take you?